How do you like my new office? Office slash shooting studio slash storage closet. Howdy YouTube family, it's Bolt SRNA. Oh wait, Bolt CRNA. It's weird to say that now, but I have passed boards, I graduated, and today is my first video in my new home in California. So today's video is talking about where I moved, why I moved here, and my next step for the future. Let's get into it. Some of you may already know this, but I didn't really talk much about it before when I was living in Tennessee, but I lived in Jackson, Tennessee, and I went to Union University. So the reason I kind of kept that from being public information that I put out there for everyone is just because when you're in anesthesia school, you really don't want your social media presence to be public so that everyone knows exactly where you're at and where you're going to school and stuff, just because it can cause complications. When you're a student, you represent your program. So the minute you accept admissions into their program, for the next 3 years, you're no longer just representing you. I'm no longer just representing Jason Bolt online. I'm representing my university online and their reputation and their ideals and their perspectives. And a lot of anesthesia training programs are very particular in the way they want themselves represented and the things they want said and what they want people to think about their university, things like that. So you just have to really watch what you say as an anesthesia student or a resident who's representing their program that they're training in, an anesthesia resident, because those programs and those training facilities, they're very particular. So it's smarter as a student to just not talk about where you go to school if you're going to have an online presence, because then you can kind of not deal as much with the whole like representing that program by talking about it. But now I'm graduated, I am out on my own, and I don't have to worry about representing a certain program or what people think about my program related to me or whatever. I loved my program. Union University is a great training program. You get a lot of really great experience. And if you have any particular questions about that university or my training there, feel free to comment or DM me on Instagram or whatever, and I'll be happy to answer those questions for you. So now, where did I move to? I am now living in California. Similar to the reason why I didn't talk about exactly what university I was at, I'm not probably going to talk about the exact hospital I work for or the exact town that I'm in, because it's not a huge city. It's a pretty moderate sized town. So it wouldn't be that hard to figure out my location if I told you specifics. And it's the internet, and it's just safety wise and privacy wise, it's better not to talk about your very specific locations. But I will tell you, it's south of the Bay Area, pretty much, in a moderate sized town. So I really love it here. The move, I'm gonna have to create a whole other video about the moving process, because I'll tell you, the moving process, that was a nightmare. It was a living nightmare. And my car got stolen essentially for a little bit. My dog almost got abandoned on the side of the road at the airport, and he wasn't, it wasn't a good situation. So I'll create a whole other video talking about that. But suffice to say, that was stressful, but I'm here now, got moved in, bought a whole bunch of new furniture, got this new desk, set up this new office, got a new TV, new bed, everything's new, because I couldn't really transport much with me from Tennessee. So just settled in here, getting used to the weather. It's beautiful here. The sun shines out almost pretty much every day. I think every day I've been here, it has been big, bright sunshine, blue skies, nice, warm, it's a little warmer than maybe what some people are used to, but to me, it's fine. Like, it actually feels cooler here than it did in Tennessee or when I lived in Alabama or Georgia or really anywhere in the Southeast, because the Southeast, we have that intense humidity. And that intense humidity in the Southeast, it may say it's 87 degrees, but it's got to feel like it's 115 and you're in a steam room. So, you walk out your front door in Tennessee and you're already sweating down your back and your clothes are wet with your sweat. So here, it's not like that. It's much more of a drier, lower humidity, much more bearable kind of heat. I got myself a nice 3-bedroom, 2.5-bath townhouse, which I really like. It's in a really cool neighborhood. It's got running trails that trace all the way through for miles all around different neighborhoods and school systems and everything. And me and the dog, we go running in the afternoons and stuff, and he gets his exercise and I get my exercise. So it's really nice, really quaint kind of neighborhood, nice food options around here. It's really been a great place to move to. So that's where I moved to. So you may be asking, why did I move here? Out of all the places I could have gone, because I could have gone anywhere, really right now the market for CRNAs, you could just drop a pinpoint on a map anywhere in the United States and you can probably go find a job there as a CRNA, and usually a very high paying, good job. So the reason I chose California is because I actually lived out here before as a travel nurse. I used to work for Stanford as a travel nurse, and I lived in the Bay Area, Silicon Valley. And then I also lived in Long Beach, California, which is in the LA area. And I did all that before I went back to CRNA school. So I'd gotten familiar with California, I'd gotten familiar with the weather here, the stand-up paddleboarding, the hang gliding, the skateboarding, the year-round sunshine, the low humidity, the lack of mosquitoes, at least comparatively to where I'm used to living. It's just the ethnic culture and the food and the diversity of people out here. You'll meet people who just moved here from Germany, and then you'll meet another person who just came here from Vietnam, and everyone just brings a really interesting blend of their own cultures and backgrounds, and they have very different political ideas and social ideas, and sometimes, California has a reputation for being a little bit wacky. And that's true. That's here too, which I find funny. I don't mind it. I'm not someone who's offended by the wacky. I think it's interesting. Let people be their broad spectrum of people, and just enjoy them for who they are. So anyway, yeah, California offers all of that stuff. It's year-round sunshine pretty much here. People get outside. They go outdoors. They're healthier here. They're tan. They're exercising. It's just all the kind of things. They eat healthier, like green smoothie drinks and some stuff that's a little more trendy than I usually do, but still I applaud people for being healthy. And I try and be healthy too. And maybe I'll get more healthy while I'm living here, surrounded by so many other healthy people. So anyway, all those things blend together to make California just a really interesting state, lifestyle-wise, to live in. Not even mentioning the fact that you have mountains right here in California that you can snow ski on, and then a couple hours away you've got the beaches, some beautiful beaches that you can surf on and hang out on the beach if you want to. And then you've got major cities like LA, San Francisco, San Diego that just have like awesome stuff like Disneyland and red carpet stuff if you're into Hollywood people, and San Francisco has some really cool stuff too. So there's just lots of stuff to do in this state. I should probably talk about the negatives because it's only fair. I talk so much about what's good about California. I should tell you what I noticed when I lived here before that's negative, and then some of the things I've noticed here now. California is very expensive. The cost of living in California probably as a whole, as a state as a whole, is higher in this state than any other state. And I've lived all over the U.S. back when I was a travel nurse. And there are other, like the Northeast, Connecticut, New York State, places like that, they're very expensive. But I think California has them beat overall. The cost of living is pretty crazy, especially if you're trying to live in the Bay Area. LA and San Diego are both crazy expensive too, but San Francisco, I think, has the entire U.S. beat as being just the most outrageously expensive place to live. Basic fixer-upper, 2-bedroom, 1-bath, crappy homes are $1 million plus there in the Bay Area. So yeah, it's pretty wild living in the Bay Area, which is it's not far from me at all. Luckily, I chose a location that's south of the Bay Area, and it's just enough south that you start to enter into like reasonable cost of living. So it's a much better mix of lifestyle benefits plus the cost of living being lower here. So that's one of the reasons I chose this location. But yeah, the cost of living, it's crazy in California. And on kind of a side note to the cost of living, taxes are really intense in California. So if you want to live here, and a lot of you have messaged me on Instagram and stuff and said, hey, I want to go to California too. Like, what's the job market like? All that. The job market, it's great. I mean, you can find good jobs and you can find really, high salaries here. But the downside, like I said, the cost of living, but the taxes are also really intense in California. I'd probably say California might be the worst state as far as taxes. Just overall, you not even just like income taxes and basic taxes you think of, you'll get taxes on weird stuff that you wouldn't expect that adds up over time, like your grocery bags. You get charged for a grocery bag at the grocery store. Your gas is taxed pretty intensely. That's probably why Teslas are so popular in this state, because it just comes out cheaper for you to go buy an expensive Tesla and fuel it up with electricity rather than spend money on the gasoline here. It definitely, I filled up my tank in my car when I was living in Tennessee for like $40 before I left. And then I filled it up again the other day when I got here to California at the Costco. I mean, it was one of the cheaper gas stations. And I think it was like $55 or something, or 40. Yeah, it was like $15 more to fill up my tank here versus there. So if you talk about that every time you fill up your tank, it gets expensive. Another issue with California is the homeless population here. Because the weather's so amazing here and because it's so sunshiny and beautiful, that also means people can manage to live here pretty comfortably on the streets year round. So you have a huge population of homeless people, and also you can throw in other political things that I won't get into, like sanctuary states and things where people who are not U.S. citizens or whatever come here and live here without being U.S. citizens. So you have a lot of that kind of issues to deal with in California that may be a little more than you would deal with in other states. Some people, including my mother, are terrified of earthquakes. So some people will say that about California, like, oh, California's going to like fall off the map. There's just going to be a giant earthquake that's going to come through the San Andreas fault line. It's just going to break all of California off into the ocean. I have not experienced anything like that. I know recently there was like a decent sized earthquake here in California, and I don't think I heard many people have much issues with it or cause much problems. And I've never really seen anybody or met anybody firsthand who's had significant trouble with earthquakes here. Another thing that is kind of a more significant issue are fires, like forest fires and things that we've seen in the news in the last handful of years. We've seen some fires break out across California because it is the sun's out year round, and a lot of parts of California can be very dry. So with the fire breaking out, it can become hard to contain it, and there have been like entire areas of California that have been like consumed by fire, and that is a risk. And there are parts of California that are more prone to that happening versus other parts. Luckily, I chose an area to live in that was not burnt up before and is a little more wet, I think, and a little less at risk of the forest fires. But you never know. It's always a possibility here, but I don't think it's something that really deters someone from living in this state. And really one of the best things about living here, to close up this whole topic of where I moved and why I moved here, one of the best things about living in California is it is a really supportive state for CRNAs. The laws are really great here for CRNAs. It is an opt-out state, which a lot of you know that means that for CMS billing, which is Medicare and Medicaid, you don't need a physician's signature on the chart. Your CRNA signature is enough for them to reimburse you financially for your services, which means it encourages independent practice here, which I like. I like that CRNAs are independent practitioners. I like that we're trained to be independent providers. I think that it's great to be able to work in a team and collaborate with physician anesthesiologists and nurse anesthesiologists and everybody work together. But I also think it's great if either of those people want to work on their own and do their own group by themselves. I think they're both equally trained and capable of doing that. So I like states, and more states are getting on this bandwagon, but I like that California is one of the states that is supportive of that and gives you a lot of independent practice and a lot of autonomy as a CRNA, and there's not as much legal boundaries trying to restrict you from doing what you're trained and licensed to do. Well, all right, guys, that's why I moved to California. I want to hear from you guys. If you're CRNAs, what state do you live in? Or SRNAs, what state do you live in? And why is that a good state to live in? If it's not a good state to live in, then sound off in the comments below and let us know, like, hey, don't live here for this reason, because we'll avoid it. But as far as California goes, I really like it here. I could see myself living here for a very long time. What's some things you guys like to do while you're living in California? Let me know in the comments below, and make sure and click this video and that video and hit the subscribe and hit the notification bell, and that's Bolt out.